It's the Baseball Show on WCRX 88.1 FM and WCRXFM.com. I'm Corey Stolzenbach with, as usual, the man, the legend, Shane Reardon, and the two of us are going to be joined by a baseball legend. Our guest right now was a National League umpire from 1962 to 1992, a span of 4,673 games in his career. Not bad for somebody who never went to umpiring school. He can say he umpired in 5 World Series, 7 All-Star games, and 9 National League Championship Series. He worked in the game when Roberto Clemente collected his 3,000th and final hit in the big leagues. He served as the home plate umpire when Jesus, Matty, and Felipe Alou all batted consecutively for the Giants September 10, 1963. He was behind home plate when the Pirates hosted the Reds July 16, 1970 in the first ever game at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, and also was behind the plate for Kirk Gibson's walk-off home run off Dennis Eckersley in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. In 1999, the Society of American Baseball Research named him second to only Bill Clem as the greatest umpire of all time. He was a strict rule enforcer and commanded so much respect he was known by the players as God. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to welcome from the class of 2010 Hall of Famer Doug Harvey onto the Baseball Show on WCRX. Hello, Doug.
Hello. Oh, my goodness, you've looked up a lot of history.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the great introduction.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. First question I want to ask you today, Doug. When did you decide that you wanted to get into umpiring?
Well, I'll tell you, I was sitting with a bunch of fellas, and we were listening to the World Series ball game. And actually, we were watching it on TV, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said to the guy next to me, I'll be darned. And he said, what's that? And I said, I just decided what I'm going to be. And he said, what? And I said, I'm going to be a major league umpire. And he turned to the four fellas next to him and said, hey, guys, you'll never believe this. Harvey says he's going to be a major league umpire. And they laughed me out of the bar. And 8 years later, they were watching me work my first World Series.
I think we know who's laughing now all these years later. From what I understand, you also refereed basketball and football games. What was it about baseball you decided to go into umpiring over the other sports?
You know, I don't know. I was good at the other sports. I was offered to go to the NBA as a referee, and I turned it down. I don't know why. I just NBA was paying about twice as much to the referees as what they were paying us at the time. But I just know that I was meant to umpire, and so that's what I hung with it, and it's been wonderful to me.
For our listeners out there, Doug's game that he first ever umpired in the big leagues was the first ever game at Dodger Stadium, April 10th, 1962, between the Reds and Dodgers, and Cincinnati won that game 6-3. Doug, I want to ask your emotions. Would you say you were nervous, excited? How would you describe yourself and what you were feeling going into that game?
Oh, my. This is something you asked me because I don't remember. It was so wonderful that you just get through it. It's just an emotion that is beyond anything. I mean, it's just wonderful, and it's good that they started me at third base because I'd hated to have been at first base or home plate and doing it. And I was lucky. I was put together with Al Barlick, Shag Crawford, and Ed Vargo was the other crew members, and they were all good umpires, and I didn't have any plays at third base. I had one play when I got over to second base, and then I had several plays at first base, and they come out on me on one of them and wanted to argue how come I called the guy safe. And I said to him, didn't you get that notice? He said, what's that? And I said that you have to keep your foot on the bag this year, you know, and no cheating is getting away with it. And he said, I'll be danged. He says, you've been in the league 2 days and you're going to change everything. Ah, boy.
Great stories as always. I remember you mentioned Al Barlick and Shag Crawford in your Hall of Fame speech. Barlick is there with you in Cooperstown. You said in your speech that Shag Crawford should be there. You wore number 8 for most of your career. Was it just a number, or was there something special behind the number 8 for you?
Well, I really, when I was in junior college and college, I always wore the number 5. And I always thought number 5 was what I was supposed to wear. It was my lucky number. And then my wife and I got into Puerto Rico, and we was walking down the street one day, and this little old lady sitting on the curb there, and she held out her hand, so I gave her $1, and she says, come on down here. So she laid out a piece of paper and went to drawing on it and everything, and she told me, your lucky number is 8. So after that, I always tried to wear number 8, and it just so happened that number 8 came up for me, and that's what I wore.
You're listening to The Baseball Show on WCRX 88.1 FM and WCRXFM.com. I'm Corey Stolzenbach with Shane Reardon talking to Doug Harvey. Doug, where did the God nickname come from?
Where did the what?
Where did the God nickname come from?
Well, let's see now. We're going into New York, and we got the Mets, and who the heck were they even playing? It doesn't matter. It was a rain situation, and I was told by the general manager, boy, I would really appreciate if you'd work hard to get this game in because we only see this team one more time. I said, okay, so I'm working it through the rain, and then the guy slipped. Steve Garvey. Oh, must have been the. Well, I was trying to think. Oh, the Padres. Yeah, it was the Padres that was playing, and Garvey was playing first base for them at the time. And anyway, he fielded the ball, and he put his hand up to the pitcher, stay there, and he started towards first, and when he did, he slipped down to his knee, and the guy beat out the base hit. Well, the next guy hit a ball 4 miles into right field and for a home run. So that put him up 2-0, and now it starts raining hard, and I have put the tarp on it, and I tell Joe West, Joe, you keep an eye on it. Make sure they get the tarp on. He said, okay. Joe came into the dressing room laughing like the devil, and I said, what's so funny? He says, well, you never believe this. He said, I'm sitting there, he says, and Garvey come up and wanted to know, did anybody look at the field? And I told him, yeah, the chief looked at the field, meaning me. That's what they called me at the time, was the chief. And down at the far end was the catcher for the Padres, and Terry Kennedy. Yeah, and he slammed his gear down on the bench and said, well, that doesn't count. That son of a bitch walks on water. And ergo, there's a rider came in, in Chicago, our next stop, and the guys told him this story. And the next day, his headline was God Comes to Chicago, and that started it, and that's the way it just picked up all the way around the league after that.
Let's talk about March 31st Bleacher Report interview that you did. You said that instant replay should be thrown out, that you said that, but you said that baseball is a game of imperfections, but also no sport is perfect either. So do you think that replay should be taken out of all sports?
Absolutely. I don't care about the other sports or anything, but I don't know. To me, it's a thing with baseball is just a beautiful, beautiful game, and part of it is the people in the stands getting into the game, hollering and screaming at the umpires, and people coming out onto the field to argue, and then the people getting all upset in the stands and screaming and hollering. You're missing out on that, and you keep your eye on the stands and how much they're not getting into the game. The man comes out and he talks to the umpire. The umpire says, "Okay, let me ask my partners." They go ask their partners. Now they're going to say, "Well, hold on for 50 seconds while we look at the TV replay and see if that's a strike or a ball," or that's BS. I don't need that. It's a game played by humans. It ought to be done by human beings. It ought to be officiated by humans.
But also at the same time, maybe this is apples and oranges, but you also said in that Bleacher Report article, the interview, when you were asked about home plate collisions, that it's part of the game but not at the expense of health. But by the same logic, if errors are part of the game, they could be avoided since they could be at the expense of a ball club. Agree or disagree?
I didn't quite pick up on what you said. It was, what was it? Ask it again, please.
That's okay. You said in that Bleacher Report interview that home plate collisions are part of the game but not at the expense of health. I want to ask, though, by the same logic, if errors are part of the game, can't that be avoided, though, since errors could be at the expense of a ball club?
Well, the big thing about it is when your collision at home plate, you're taking the chance of knocking somebody out, either the catcher or the guy running over him. You're taking a chance of knocking somebody out of the game. And I can understand them not wanting to do that. But the other thing on balls and strikes and plays, and what's the difference? What's the difference?
Well, I'll say this right now. Last year between the Rays and Rangers, when Joe Nathan got his 300th save, and he threw a ball over the plate that Marty Foster called strike three on Ben Zobrist, when most people, if not everybody, said that should have been ball four. And in that case, the game was over. And as a result of that, the Rangers won, and the Rays and Rangers had to play game 163 to decide the second wild card.
Wow. That was quite a mess all the way around, wasn't it? Well, I don't know. It's just like I say, it's a human thing, and it should be done by human beings. And I don't want machines coming into the thing.
Understood. Last question before we go. What is one thing that someone, be it fans, players, managers, that they don't know about umpires that you think they should know about them?
that I think they should know about umpires.
Yes, it could be fans, managers, players, that they don't know about umpires generally that you think they should know, if there's
Well,
anything at all.
I think that most of them do not realize how long you can be away from home. I live on the West Coast, and it makes it a little tougher, but I went 10 weeks without getting home, and that's awfully hard on umpires, and not to see their family and all. Now they're making enough money that they could fly the wife out to see them, but back when I was starting, no, there's no way we could, and like I say, I went 10 weeks without seeing my wife, and I think that was the toughest part of it. As far as umpiring itself, I think you should realize one thing. Umpiring is just making sure that one team doesn't cheat the other. That's what umpiring's all about. And if they make mistakes, holler at them. But don't replay everything. Holler at them. Keep the fans in the game. You're shutting them out with the replay. They shut down. A whole of folks were going to replay this and see how it goes, and everybody stands there waiting, and okay, nope, that's it. Stays that way. I don't like that. Nobody hollers. Nobody does anything.
Well, thank you so much, Doug Harvey, and thank you to you, the listener. It wasn't too long ago that Doug Harvey came out with a new book, They Call Me God, the best umpire who ever lived. Get your copy today, either in bookstores, online, or download the ebook version. Thank you so much. This has been The Baseball Show on WCRX. I'm Corey Stolzenbach for Shane Reardon. Take care, everybody, and thank you, Doug Harvey.
Thank you, Corey.